ahead and test it. We're going to go right. That blinks correctly. We go with the hazard. They both blink. Hey everybody, welcome back to the MCE Off-Road Garage. Today we have this Can-Am Commander in here that we are going to be installing a Corbin Works plug-and-play turn signal kit on. This specific kit is going to actually replace your signature lights, so that way it's all nice, clean OEM look. It'll utilize tail lights for your signaling as well. So we'll start by going over to the workbench, lay everything out, show you all the components, fit and finish, how everything will look when you get it, and then we will go through and install it on this machine step by step with you. So let's go. All right, so over here on the workbench, I got everything out of the box from Corbin Works. This is pretty much how it's going to look. I took this harness out of the pack, but one package will have your rocker switches, zip ties, the main wiring. This is the wiring that goes to the bed and the signature lights. Then this added pack here, it was the horn option. This kit has the horn and hazards. Also has the signature light replacement. So these will actually be switched back from the signature lights to the amber for your turn signal. It's also going to have this separate product here is the turn signals for the gauge cluster, just so that way the arrows would work like they would in your normal automobile. It'll blink when you're going left, right. Hazards are on, it'll blink same way. Took this harness out here. Nice clean finish on everything. All OEM connectors connect the same way. There's no cutting or splicing, nothing like that. It's all plug and play, ready to go. Head over to the machine next and start the installation process. All right, so first things we're gonna do here, we're just gonna remove these seats. You just lift up on the front side of the cushion, pops out. Same thing on the driver's side. Then we're going to use our T30 Torx to remove this bolt, these two bolts up here, and this bolt down here by the seatbelt clips. Once we get those off, you'll pull this plastic shift cover off, and you'll apply this rubber boot, pull that out of the way. The other thing you'll have to do is remove your shift knob. There's a lock nut on the bottom. You just loosen this lock nut up and then you can turn the handle off. So we'll go ahead and get those things removed and then move on to the next step. Alright, now over on the driver's side, after you have those pieces removed, you can go ahead and remove this push pin here. There'll be one up there attaching the two side panels together, and then the one right back here. You can use a push pin pliers like this, or if you have just a flathead screwdriver, you can just wedge the flathead screwdriver in there and pull it out as well. These pliers work nice. You just get it on each side. Just pull them out. So pull those out. To get that panel off, you'll want to grab it with both hands. One hand there, one hand here, and just pull out. There's these clips at the top that go into these slots by this shifter mount. So I'll pull those out. Just pull that piece out of the way. And then our next step is we're going to want to move this seat as far forward as possible, and we're actually going to take the back off of it as well. To do that, pull out on the bottom of it, and then you lift up and it'll come out of its clips. Seat goes into these clips here. That's what kind of holds it in place. Then we'll move this seat forward, and then we're going to work on getting this sound mat pulled back and out of the way next. Alright, so now getting the sound mat out of the way. There are these push pins that hold it in place.
You're gonna want to remove this one down here, another one down there, one up here, and then once you get those removed, you can use the push pin pliers, or sometimes these you can get on the back side with like a needle nose or something, just as long as you're pulling on the head of them to pull them out, you'll be all right. And then once you get those out, then we're just going to take this and just basically fold it back along here out of the way. Alright, so there were 2 pins that I had missed. There's one in the side here, and then down towards the bottom here, there'll be another push pin that we'll need to pull out. Then, once you have those out, you can pull this down away from these seatbelt loops here and here. Pull that down out from behind it. Kind of pull this out around seat belt or this seat bracket. Pull it out, and you just kind of want to tuck it back behind this seat bracket here. Alright, so now we got that kind of pushed out of the way there. Now we're going to start running some of the wiring. So down on your harness here, there's this side that has connector C labeled on it, along with this connector B. These two are the ones that we're going to want to run back to the rear bed, underneath the rear bed. So to do that, we're going to run this wire up along these here, and then over to where the door striker is. Now you can kind of see where the wires are going to go through, right through here. You can kind of see I have a flashlight on the back side. That's what that light is shining right here where my screwdriver tip is. What you're going to want to do is basically just get the screwdriver in there and just pry this plastic away wide enough that you can fit the connector plugs through there. So you're just going to basically use that to open it up, and then basically just push your connectors one at a time through that gap that you're prying open. We got the wires pushed through there, so then we'll come over underneath the box here. Your wires are going to come out right back here. These are going to route up kind of along the intake snorkel here. Then you're going to come down right next to this plug. You're going to disconnect this plug, you lift up on the tab, slide the plug back, and then this one is actually going to plug from the Corbin Works harness. That one's labeled connector B. Connector B is going to then plug into where the stock harness was plugged in. Then we'll go ahead to the next step, which is going to be replacing the taillight harness. So we're going to remove that OEM harness and replace it with the Corbin Works one. Alright, so now with the bed tipped up, we have a T20 Torx. You're going to want to remove the torque bolt that was there, and there. This will basically just allow you to pull this back, to pull wires out and run wires in. Then you want to come around over to the inside of the box. There's these 2 twist screws here. Pull that one out. Twist that one out. So once you twist those out, set them down, then it's going to allow you to take this side panel, just push it back towards the rear of the machine, unlock it, and then it will actually come off. That will give you access to get to your brake light harness. So you want to unplug your brake light, and then I'm going to go around and disconnect this harness wherever it's connected to the frame. Here, you can do that with a flat blade screwdriver and just pry out those tabs, get them out of the way. And then what you'll do is you'll pull this panel back with one hand and then slide this harness out of there with the other hand. And then you'll repeat these steps over on the passenger side of the machine as well. So now what I did is I shut the bed again so I could get good access underneath here. You can see here's the tail light harness runs along here. These wires that are added here, those are for our license plate light. So most of you will not have those added wires, so you can disregard that. But this wire here is the one that you want to disconnect from the frame all the way across. And then under here, this is where you want to pull this down out of the way and then pull the plugs through for the tail lights. Alright, so one added thing up underneath there where this stock plug was plugged into the tail light, it's fastened on the inside with one of these way up inside of here. You can't really get a tool in there to grab onto it or anything, so what I ended up doing was just pulling this down with one hand, grabbing the harness like this with the other hand, and just pulling it out as hard as I could, and it'll pop out. It's just not something easy to get to, so if you feel like you're pulling on something and it's attached, it's because it's attached up inside of there, and it's not the easiest spot to get to. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull that off the other side, and then we'll get this harness removed out of the way completely. All right, so now pops these last two. And that harness, stock harness, you can disregard. Not gonna need that anymore. And then your Corbin Works harness here that has the heat shielding on it. That is going to plug in to this connector here, like that. Push it in until it clicks. And then you're just gonna run these tabs that are supplied on the harness. You're just gonna push them right into the holes that the stock harness followed from the factory. And you're basically just gonna run that exactly right up the same way the OEM one was. You're gonna run that right up through this hole where the tail light is. Same way as before, as you remove the other one. Pull your inner plastic out of the way, feed your wire up, then grab it here, pull it through. I'm assuming you'll probably need some sort of needle nose or something smaller to help you grab that, pull it through. And then you'll reconnect it to your tail light. Once you've got that done, then you're just gonna take this and just zip tie it up nicely, follow it all the way up and around, then we can move on to the next steps. All right, so now here, back at the inside the cab, here's where we fed our wire through. You're just gonna route these wires down along the stock wiring, along down through the center. This is gonna run up inside here like this, and then you're gonna run it up here. Basically just push this out of the way, feed your wires in through the gap, and push them to the back. And your wires are gonna come up kind of to the bottom dash wiring down underneath here. All right, so our next step is gonna be to run these two plug wires here. They are labeled left driver side or right passenger side. These are gonna be for the signature lights, so we have to run these through the firewall up outside of the machine. So over here in the front wheel well, there's this rubber boot up here. You can kind of see where we have some wires coming out of it already, but there's a zip tie around this normally. You want to remove that zip tie to allow the wires to come out. From the inside of the cab, you're going to feed the wires out through this boot, and then you're going to run the wires up towards where the top of the hood is. we are going to remove the hood. We're pressing the release latch on the back side here. Lift this up out of the way. And then your wires are going to come up through here and basically split to the driver's side and then underneath this way for the passenger side to connect to the replacement signature lights. Alright, so you're going to take your wires, and then that boot is up underneath here. So right where the brake pedal is here, straight up, you can feel where the boot goes through. You're just going to push your connectors through there. And when you come around, you'll be able to see where they come out right up here. At this point, then you can kind of pull them through a little bit, and then you can run your wires up through by where the brake reservoirs are. You can run that up to the hood. Once you get your wire ran up through here, then you can split your wires off left and right, feed them down through towards where the signature lights are underneath there. I have the driver one ran down already, but you can see right down here, this is where the stock connector plug is. This wire just ran down from the top right there. So while I'm here, I'm just gonna unplug this guy, and then to remove your signature lights, you're gonna want to remove on the top of this tab, there's a bolt. Once you get that bolt out, then you're gonna wedge a screwdriver in here to open this clip up, and then you're gonna push the light out. Or actually the light's gonna come back towards you to get it out. So wedge a screwdriver in there, and then pull the light towards the rear of the machine. Alright, so with that bolt removed from the top, that's a 8mm socket. And you're just going to take your screwdriver in here, splits that away from the clip. Alright, so I've got this tab unlocked and this tab on the inside unlocked. Now the easiest way I find, instead of trying to force it to get up to the front of the machine, just push it out. So that'll come out of there. It's okay if it falls on the ground because you're not going to reuse it anyway. So now you're going to take your new light, Corbin Works light, make sure that you have the right side. You're just going to reinstall it from the back. Got the light popped in. Now you have the Corbin Works plug is then going to plug back into the stock light connector. Then you can do the same thing on the passenger side to remove and install the other light. Alright, so to remove the gauge pod or get the gauge cluster out, there's 4, 1, 2, 3, and then 4. There are 4 of those T20 Torx head screws. You remove those, and this panel will come off. Set it aside. Then, to get the gauge cluster out itself, there's this tab here you want to press down on just to get it to release. So you want to press down on this, basically pull down on that, up on the housing part to get this to snap out from its thing. Almost. So snap out like that, pull it out all together, and to get to the back, just down it would be easier. But there's this red tab on the back of here. Pull that red tab backwards to release the plug, and then after that, then you can pinch the plug and then pull it off the gauge cluster. Now with the gauge cluster out, you want to remove this white part of this plug. This is the lock for the pins, keeps everything in line. The easiest way I find to get this to pop out of here are right behind these little holes, where you can see where the back side of that white thing is on each side. If you get a pick or a real small screwdriver, you can get behind that and just kind of like wedge it in there and then push the plastic part out. Is the easiest way that I find. Now once you get it to pop up a little bit, and you can kind of grab it, pull it straight up and out of there. So next, on the back side of the plug, there are these little white dummy plugs that are in there. Right next to this purple wire here, you can see that's number 7. The one directly below that is 17. These two are the two that you're going to want to remove. You're going to want to push those out through the front side. If you just take that same pick or a small screwdriver and just push on them from the back side, they will come out this way. So once you have those out, then you'll have your 2 pins from the Corbin Works harness. The green one is going to be your number 7. Yellow is going to be 17. So the green one is going to go through the back side of the plug next to that purple one, and then the yellow wire is going to go directly below that one next to this blue wire. And they're going to pin in similar to how the horn connectors were plugged into that back of that rocker switch plug. So you're just going to push them into the hole, push it in there until you hear it snap. Once those are in there, some of these might get a little out of position. You can just take them and just kind of with your finger just kind of push them back into a general straightness. And then what we're going to want to do is you're going to want to take your white plug, and then you're going to want to push that back in, so that way it separates the pins correctly on the top and the bottom. And then you just go ahead and push that back down into position. So now we've got that installed. We can run the other end of this harness down through the bottom gauge hole. Then we will plug our gauge pod back in, reinstall, clip it back in there, put the front cover back on, put the screws in, and then we'll go down to the bottom where those other 2 pin connections terminate. Alright, so now you have your wires from the gauge pod. Down here you have your blinker module. You're going to want to unplug the plug from the side that says switch on it. Take that plug out. Then as you're looking at this plug here, these 2 open pins between green and blue are the ones you want to put the wire terminations into. So in position 8, that's the one next to the green wire, that is going to be the yellow wire from the gauge pod, and then the one next to the blue wire is going to be the green wire from the gauge pod. So you're going to push those in there the same way that you did the gauge pins up top. Alright, so here is a shot of them installed. Yellow next to the green wire, and the green wire next to the blue wire. And you can go ahead and plug this back into the blinker module. And so the next part we're working on here is going to be for the horn. If you didn't get the horn option, you can just skip ahead to where we're back inside the cab finishing up the wiring. But to install the horn, we got to remove this side panel here up on the hood. There's 2 T30 Torx that hold it on here, and then up underneath, you may be able to see or not, but it's way back up inside. On the inside of there, there's 2 clips on the hood panel itself. So when you pull this out, you'll see these 2 clips here. These are on the inside. Basically, you want to pull these back towards the front of the machine from the inside with your hand up on the inside, pull it forward, and then pull this panel out. There's 2 of them. There's one on the bottom and one on the top. They're not super fun to get off, but if you pull them, kind of work it back and forth a little bit, those will loosen up and come off. And then you can pull this side panel out of the way. Then you want to remove this Torx screw here, and then the horn bracket will mount to that. Alright, so this is what it's going to look like once you get that T30 reinstalled. I kind of try to give it some extra gap in between this bar, because if you're driving down the trail, say this thing, you get into some washboard or anything like that, this might wobble around and you don't want it hitting or rubbing on anything. So I kind of positioned it a little bit farther away, made sure it wasn't going to hit anything, just wiggling it back and forth by hand. Right, so now this is the horn harness here. These two coated connectors are the ones that are going to connect to the horn. These two are going to stay in the cab and go clip into the back of the switch. But for right now, how we ran the signature lights through the firewall in that boot, I want to push these wires through that boot the same way and run them up over across to the horn. Then these will plug into the two spade connectors on the horn. Alright, so I got the wires up through the boot, just ran them across, around through the backside of this fan shroud here. Just ran it along the backside straight up to the horn. And then you plug your two spade connectors in. Doesn't matter which one goes to what terminal. Bend the bracket a little bit as need be if the connectors are going to rub on the plastic. Give some stuff a little bit more clearance. And then we can go ahead and put this panel back on, and we'll head back into the cab and finish the wiring and install. Alright, now at this point in the cab, these are your spade terminals that were on the horn harness. I went ahead and took the cap off this cover, off this plug. It looks like a plug, but it's actually a fuse holder. And then I removed the fuse. These two, this red is going to go to keyed power, and this black is going to go to ground. There is a accessory power block up underneath here. Kind of see it. There's a lot of wiring going on this machine, but the post to the very left side here is going to be keyed power. Center one is going to be constant power, and then the right side post is going to be the ground. So you're going to want to put the black on the ground and the red on the far left, which is the keyed power. So these will run up along the back side of all this nonsense, and then we'll connect to those power terminals. Alright, so we got that horn harness hooked up to the power terminal there. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to install a switch panel. Our customer already has the driver switch panel here. He's got some things already in it. So we're going to go ahead and install our passenger version. It just goes on the other side here. It installs the same way as the driver side does. There's two screw holes in the top, one on the back side. You just basically hold it up into place, put your screws in the top, and then put your one through in the side there, and then you have your location for additional rocker switches. And so now you have your spade connectors from the horn harness. Those are going to need to go into this hazard switch plug. On the side of it, should be able to see number 4 and number 5. Those pins are going to push in through the back side here into pins 4 and 5. So you just push them in and kind of see little indents in it. Those indents are where these tabs kind of ride in and clip into. So you're going to push those in through the back side of the plug. Alright, so now with that plugged in, I'm just going to go ahead and push these up through our switch panel here. Push those two up through there. Get those ready. And then if we come down here, there's this other plug from the harness. It is going to be labeled as connector A. It's going to plug into the actual blinker module. And then once you get those connected, then you can go ahead and we'll grab our rocker switches next. We'll put the rocker switches in, or we'll at least plug them in, and then we will test functionality. Alright, so now what you want to do, I'm going to put that fuse back into that fuse holder for the horn. I'm going to go ahead and just hit the start button, just press it. We're going to go ahead and test it. We're going to go right, That blinks correctly. Left. That blinks correctly. If we go with the hazard, they both blink. So that's all working properly. Horn, that works. So we are all set to go. Now this section's all completely done. You can go ahead, go through, re-put in all the panels that you had taken out, put your mat back in place against the firewall, put your seats back in, side panels of the box you can put back on, just zip tie all the wires, tidy everything up, and you'll be set to go. Go ahead, if there's anything that you guys want to see more of or anything that you want to see installed of our products, let us know. Otherwise, go ahead and subscribe to the page and you'll get your notifications when we do have new videos. Appreciate you watching. Have safe riding.